Who goes first?
Why don't we have land use go first? I don't think Alice is going to be as long a discussion. And she had a really long meeting last night.
Oh, it was only 2.5 hours.
Oh my gosh, you did? What meeting was that?
Wetlands.
Oh,
And how many people did you disappoint last night, Alice?
I didn't disappoint any, but the commission, no. They approved all the ones that they could.
good answer.
Okay, so let's just wait. Oh, wait a second, see if Harry's going to join us.
Okay.
He's aware of it, so he should be joining us. And then we're wrapping up by 6:30. Is that the thought?
Yeah, we
Get over
have
to the high
to.
school?
Yep.
Okay.
So if all of you are not aware of it, tonight's a town meeting for phase 4 of the streetscape at the high school. If you're voting yes, you come tonight. If you're voting no, tomorrow night. That old joke. Think
Yvonne, where's Betsy? Is she coming?
Betsy's
there.
here.
There she
Oh.
is.
Okay, I don't see, oh, I see there's more participants.
Here's
Okay.
Okay, we got Harry. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Will everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag,
Allegiance to the
United States of
flag,
America, and to the republic for which it
One
stands,
nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Alice, how are you doing?
I am fine, thank you.
That's good. Why don't we start with you? And you have a presentation, that's correct, right?
Yes, I will try to share that.
Have we given you sharing capability? There you go.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
So that
There?
bear was in our backyard, actually. I just wanted to show that off.
Keep them over there.
Oh,
Our dog was bothering it at the moment.
whoa.
So obviously I am representing the land use department. This year it's 7 departments, but there are 8 budgets we're discussing: building, health, planning, which includes inland wetlands, ZBA, planning and zoning, economic development, community development, conservation, fire marshal's office, and light. So, I'm going to do basically an overview since there are too many budgets to get into too much detail, and not very much has changed either. Some of the projects are listed here that we've been working on. Branson was just finished. 291 Federal Road, the assisted living is still in the works. I've listed potential new construction for this coming year, which is the new school. We won't be bringing in any revenue from that because it is a town project. They'll just be paying state fees that they need to pay.
105, Alice, can I ask you
Yeah.
a question?
Sure.
105, 101, 103, 105 Laurel Hill Road. That's all, are those apartments or are those townhomes? Which are those? I don't remember.
They are apartments above, it's a mixed use. So there's commercial on the downstairs.
Yeah, market rate.
It's incentive.
It's incentive, okay.
Steve, isn't that isn't that the project that we had to go around with last year or a year and a half ago with the gentleman from Ridgefield? Excellent.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Hebert, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And then we turned down the tax abatement that they requested last
Oh,
year.
so it's still on the table?
Yes, actually, he called me on the phone about a week ago, and he said that he would probably be coming in with something soon.
Oh,
Let's see. Okay.
Steve, didn't he assess that value at about 4 times what we figured the value of the project was?
Yeah. He wanted a 10-year abatement that equaled 60-something% of the total taxes. It just didn't make sense.
Right. Sorry, Alice, didn't mean to.
Oh, no,
Go ahead,
that's fine.
sorry.
As most of you know, Brookfield Village is working on the last 2 buildings. Those will all be market rate apartments with commercial downstairs. In our offices, we've seen a huge increase in the amount of generators. Well, this is all things you've heard about anyway on the news. Generators, propane tanks, decks, small remodeling projects, patios. And even though they are small projects, they take a fair amount of time to go through
Right.
the process. So each one does take time to, to be approved. So even though they're small, they do take time. And we still have quite a bit of violations and enforcement that we're doing between all the various departments. As I mentioned last time, we've been working with OpenGov. It's been working well. A few glitches, but they're getting it much more refined and we're understanding it much better. So we're hoping to have some classes and have everyone be a little more adept at using the system. Legal notices this past year, as most of you know, we have not had to post legal notices in the newspaper, which has saved us a lot of money. And it's hard to say if in April that will go back to what it had been or if there will be a permanent change. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Online agendas and meeting minutes are available. That way we can hopefully stop creating as much paper, and people can view all of the meetings online. And right now we're doing all of them through YouTube and also recording them. What we've done this year is we've combined all the office supply budgets into one big budget under land use for the office supplies, because there was a lot of redundancy and everybody ordering for their own department. So I think that'll help us keep the costs down some. And just overall, that last comment, the budget amount for all expenses, not including wages or water for chloride contamination, is down $3,500 for the 8 departments. If you include water, it's still down $2,000.
Alice, I have a question.
Sure.
Office supplies. So on any of the other budgets, it's going to be less. Their office supplies will be less. Is that correct?
Yes, we took it all out of everybody else's budget and just put it all into land use.
So it looks like a big increase, but it's
Right,
not.
right. Good, thank you.
Okay, sure. Some additional projects we're doing. We got a grant and we're working on the land use office remodel, which I had on the budget last year. So luckily, or unluckily, the pandemic happened, so we're going to get the office redone. Currently, we've found storage room and we're working on the final bids for the work. We also got a grant from National Fish and Wildlife to get a project ready at Brookfield at the Public Works Department on Grays Bridge. It's right along the river and a lot of material goes into the river. So this grant would help us design a plan and get the permitting for a stormwater retrofit along the river. I have a little picture of it. That's the office redo.
Okay, Alice, can we just talk about the Public Works building? So will that stop pollutants from going into the river? What will it do for us?
Yeah, here's a picture of, this is a Public Works building.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is their little garage in back, and there's the oil tank.
Right.
And all back here is where the work will be done, and it'll shore up the banks along here because they're eroding.
Okay.
This is if we get another grant for the work, once we get the design done. And then it'll protect all of this with plantings and possibly rain gardens.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Steve, the office renovation, that is in capitals, correct? Capital, correct?
That's in capital, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that got approved by the boards under the COVID executive order.
Right.
And so that's moving apace. So you won't see it in capital, but it is a capital project.
Right, thank you.
The other thing we're working on right now is the affordable housing moratorium. All the documentation I've forwarded to Cohen and Wolf, they've reviewed it actually. And I'm finishing up a few spreadsheet for them, and I should have that done by the end of the week. So that should be done in a timely fashion.
Great.
And then we get to this. Any questions?
Whoa.
It's an interesting choice of pictures.
Yeah, well, any fiery questions?
That was at the suggestion of our fire marshal?
No, I chose to put that on. That's Muirwood, a fire at Muirwood, actually.
So
Mhm.
Alice, do you have any concerns that you'll be able to meet the needs of our residents and contractors and people who come in with the budget that you have? Are you comfortable with the budget you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's slim, but I think we can. And as time goes on, hopefully, the state's going to work on better mapping, better GIS satellite imagery throughout the whole state, so we can all share that. So, yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Because your budget is down 0.27% from last year?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I think we'll be okay.
Harry, Sue, do you have any questions, concerns, issues you want to?
Just an explanation, Steve. When you say on the first sheet, excuse me, the overview, where is this department, where is their percentage? Because
Start at line 168 on expenses.
168.
Do you have it on Excel or you just have it printed?
I'm looking at our book.
So you look at the budget with the summary, then it has revenue, then it has expenses.
Okay, it's not consistent with the other departments. Most of the other departments have department totals right on their front page after their label. And
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no front page with a label for each
I think the
department.
difference is that Alice is in charge of like 7 different departments.
okay.
Yeah.
8.
Okay. So it's a combined, okay.
Yeah, so each one is separate in
Okay.
your book.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I wasn't questioning
Mhm.
that. I was questioning where it is.
Yeah, they're spread all over the place.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess as I was looking through the book, the only question that I did have was under land use planning advertising. It does say in penny saver, which I know is no longer, but so $22,000, but maybe we won't have that expense next year. We don't know what they're going to do.
It's very difficult to say because the paper lobbies very hard to keep all the towns putting their
Sure.
legal notices in the
Yeah.
paper.
Sure, they want to get all that money.
Yeah, I know that several of the attorneys, including Tom, are working on trying to get that changed, but
Yeah, it'll be a cold day someplace. But Sue, I think the executive orders are going to be lifted on this sort of thing this
Mhm.
summer. And we need
So we have
that.
to plan for a year of it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that was just as I was going through the book.
No,
I was-
it's a good question. It's a really good question. Any other questions on any of the?
Oh, thank you. No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Alice, we appreciate your time.
Sure, no problem.
Okay,
See you later.
okay. We're going to move to the library. I can't believe Alice doesn't want to sit here for the library presentation. Okay, Yvonne. You're still on mute, Yvonne.
Ginny, can you make me co-host so I can share my screen? Ah, there we go. Okay, I've got it now. Thank you. Okay. Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, I know you all know me, but for anybody who's watching at home, I'm Yvonne Check, and I'm the director of the Brookfield Library. So I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight about our upcoming budget needs for the library. Oh, it doesn't let me advance my screen. Okay, so I'm going to put it in a different mode and see if I can do it that way.
If you sent it to Marcia too, right? So in case you
Yep,
can't
Marcia
get it.
has it. Yep.
So if you can't get it up and running, maybe Marcia can.
Okay, let's try it again this way. Okay, I'll try it in the same mode that Alice had to see if it works better. Can you see my next screen? Okay, great. So I didn't have a list of accomplishments. I just pulled out a couple of things to highlight this year. And I want to just start off with an unsolicited comment or testimonial, actually, that we got from a Brookfield resident a couple of days ago. Made us all smile. Hope it makes you guys all smile. But it also gives an objective view of how the library impacts the community. So, and it also shows this great new feature we have on our website, which is live chat that we installed recently to give the residents another way to communicate with us. So this message came in through our live chat, and I'm not going to read it, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Again, this is from someone who doesn't use the library but lives in town, and said they were driving by and saw all of our snow people on the front lawn and how much it made them smile. And she said, made her feel that one day we will all be back to normal. And she said, I just love how the library has touched our community. I see many of the events on Facebook. And she said, honestly, I feel that the library is becoming the heart of Brookfield. The events that have been planned in the last few years have been so on point. And then she goes on to name some of the events. But I just wanted to highlight that because I just thought that's exactly what the library's mission is. And she captured it so nicely. So this is what she's referring to, are the snowmen that were on the front lawn. In all, we had a total of 14 snow people built that day. And you can see even our snow people are socially distanced. And this event was actually a last minute addition to our Take Your Child to the Library Day events. And we just responded to the weather. This is an example of responding directly to the needs of the community during the pandemic, because when the teachers at Brookfield Public Schools and students and parents realized that covering faces with a mask meant that no one would see their smile, the teachers wanted to figure out, they knew this was going to be impactful to the kids. So one of our librarians came up with this concept, and you can see the button that this child is wearing. And we used our makerspace equipment with our button making machine and offered to make large buttons for everyone to wear so that people could still see smiling faces. All the principals from all the schools were on board, and we soon had so many requests from teachers and entire classes that we set up a tent on the front lawn and made buttons for people as they stopped by. The last example that I'll highlight is something that we did recently. And of course, before the vaccine started to really become widely available, there were even more questions about how to get the vaccine. And so our adult services librarian sprang into action, working with Maureen Farrell, who, as many of you know, is a Brookfield resident and a public health expert that is assisting the health department during the pandemic. And Maureen was kind enough to spend about an hour and a half on our live YouTube channel, our Brookfield Library live YouTube channel, and we had over 400 views from that event. And again, received a lot of notes of thanks from people who appreciated it. So these are just some ways that the library is responding to the community's needs. So how does this translate to our budget? Of course, our budget is what makes it possible for us to serve the community. So what's different in this budget over our last year's budget? And that's what we're going to spend a few minutes talking about. I wanted to point out our non-union wages. While it looks like a 1% increase, that does not mean that we're only recommending 1% raises. Everyone, all the staff is being, we're proposing 2.25% raises for the entire staff. But in this particular category, we had some people leave and some new people hired, and we had a little bit of a net savings as a result. So that's why it nets out to 1% increase, but the staff is actually, we're actually proposing 2.25%. In the next line down, it looks like a very large increase of almost 14%. That's also very misleading, because what actually happened is that 2 line items that were in different places in the budget got moved up into that line, which is causing it to look falsely inflated. So that part-time wages also 2.25%. But the thing that's inflating it is one is the contingency salary line, which was a separate line but is now combined. And I don't know if Marcia wants to speak to that, but there were a lot of technical reasons for that. And the other thing is the cleaning services that were contracted services are now moved up into that line because we now have part-time custodians.
That's why other expenses is down by 17,000. A couple of lines below that.
That's exactly why the other expense looks like we are down 70%, almost 70%, okay. But it's because it came out of that line and went up into the part-time wages.
Okay, thank you.
And so the only other thing to highlight, and I do want to talk for a minute about the contingency concept. Last year, before the COVID budget, we made the case and everyone agreed, and it was approved to add a $10,000 salary contingency line. And that was to cover when someone leaves or retires, there's very often a vacation accumulation that needs to be paid out. And in addition to that, there's sick time coverage. So we don't have to cover for everyone in the library when they're out sick, but our public desks have to be covered because those are shifts that operate the library. So, so combination between sick time coverage and vacation payouts very easily can come up to almost $10,000 in any given year. So last year that amount was approved, but then due to COVID cuts, we cut it back to $1,500. So then that was moved up into part-time salaries. The only other thing to point out, and actually I have.
Can I just
sure, yeah, sure, Harry.
Why can't we have whatever we're going to put in a contingency, instead of listing as a contingency, put that into our part-time? If it's not used, then it comes back to the town. Is that something to think about, Steve, or no? So that we don't have a contingency?
No, that's actually correct. What you just said, Harry, is correct. If they don't have any of those unusual expenses, much like the police department,
right,
where we have negative contingency,
right, it
comes back to the town.
I was just, it would be one less, people see contingencies and then they start to wonder why would the library have a contingency? If we just put it into the part-time, it's the same amount of money. It's just one less line on the.
So Harry, in 2022, Yvonne, you want to go back to that slide? In 2022, it is in that line. Last year, it was broken out.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you, Marcia.
Yeah, Marcia fixed that. So it's, yeah,
so
but
it's
that
in
was
there as an expense we expect, Harry.
Right.
But if it's not used, yeah, then it comes back to the
right. Okay, good.
Well, do you remember a couple of years ago, we were running over budget?
Yeah, no, I remember.
No fault of Yvonne. It's just, you had people retire. She had people go out on a Saturday. You can't have one person work in the library.
I wasn't questioning the amount or anything. I was just trying to simplify with one less line on our budget.
It was a good question.
Sorry, Yvonne.
So the only other thing that I wanted to mention is travel and conferences. We estimated that since this budget's going to begin July 1, that for at least the first half of the next fiscal budget or next fiscal year, we will very likely not be attending any in-person conferences. So we think we can realize a one-time savings in that category. And technical supplies, this is where our books are located. This is where they get charged. So while it looks like a 6 1/3% increase, it's actually, if you look at the year before, the 1920 budget year, we actually went down this year, and 83,194 is what was approved in last year's budget before the COVID reduction. So we're saying, and we'll show in our priority request why we actually can't really spare any more money in that line. So we're just trying to put it back to where it was originally this year. And any questions on?
Not on this. Can we just go over the next priority form?
Sure. This is the next priority form. And what we have is a request for $10,321. And that is a result of over several years of having very lean budgets and having to have having to keep library books way past their useful life. So in some cases, and we went over this last year as well, we made the same request last year, which wasn't approved in last year's budget. But one example of this is that 60% of our children's nonfiction collection, so these are books that have true information, 60% of those books are over 40 years old. So why is that important? Because those are the books on science, technology, geography. So if it's 40 years old, that information is completely useless just to children. So it's one example of what happens when you don't have money to replace books that you have and you only have money to buy the current books. So that is why we're requesting this. It's basically to help us with replacing our outdated collections. And I just gave you one example just to save time. If we went through our entire collection, you would easily see where this is justified. It works out to replacement of books is something that happens along with buying current books. So you would need to replace a standard book on world geography just as much as you need to buy the latest fiction books. Any other questions on that?
I would think even more so, but yes, yeah, they need to be replaced.
So that was it on the next priority form. I have capital budget next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I wanted to just really quickly touch on is it's not in the library's capital request, it's in Public Works, but because it is about the library building, I just wanted to share some photos and information about the need for replacing the windows and doors at the library. It was approved in this last year, but because of not being able to vote on the budget, the capital projects were pushed. So I know that Public Works has it in again this year, and I wanted to just make a couple of comments and show a couple of photos. One comment is that the front doors, while they have a push button for handicap access, it's on a timer. There's nothing wrong with the timer works, but because there's not a sensor, the door just, when the timer runs out, it just shuts on whoever is in its path, including little kids, including elderly who take a little more time to get through, including handicapped residents. We have several incidents of injuries with the door, in one case hitting a young child who got knocked over and got a bump on his head from the door. So we tracked just for 1 month we tracked the incidence of the front door closing on people. And these were just the ones that we could capture. We weren't staring at the door 100% of the time for that month, but we captured 10 incidences, including hitting a patron from Ability Beyond who was in a wheelchair, including hitting someone with a walker, including the child that I mentioned. So 10 incidents in 1 month from that door. It's only a matter of time before there's a real serious injury. So it's a matter of safety. And then I wanted to just show a couple of photos of the interior windows at the library. This is a photo from inside. You can see, apart from the windows being old, that some of the grids are missing. Well, that seems like it's aesthetic, but when you look at it close up, this is actually inside the library. This is the condition of the windows when you look at it from inside the library, and they're just way beyond their useful life. So these windows are constantly leaking and being repaired. And then I've got another image on it. Can you see this one with the water damage underneath the window? So again, that's from inside the library. That's what it looks like. So there is a real need for doing that project. So now to the capital requests that the library has on our side. Again, as an issue of safety and ADA compliance, we're requesting an elevator. This building, believe it or not, has no elevator. So it's not a matter of convenience, it's a matter of safety. Residents with mobility issues can barely get in the front door. They certainly can't navigate the very unsafe cement steps that are actually not to building code anymore because they don't have a proper landing for safety at the top. And we all know that, parents with children in a stroller, the only way to get to that community room, if you're in the library checking out books and you want to go to a story time, the only way to do it is to go through the parking lot and down a unsafe ramp that is not ADA compliant. So there are a number of reasons why we need the elevator, safety being the primary. And in addition to patrons who have mobility issues and can't access that space, we have staff that works upstairs because there's no room downstairs for them to work, and they do all their programs downstairs. So they're constantly carrying books and materials and equipment up and down this unsafe staircase. It's just way past time for us to upgrade this building and have it be ADA compliant. So the next thing to talk about is also sort of an upgrade, and it's the whole building generator. It's no surprise to anyone in Brookfield that the number of storms that we have are on the rise, and the number of times we have to deal with power outages has been it just seems to be increasing year over year. And I know that other town buildings are also requesting the same thing, a whole building generator. The reason why I think it's important for the library to have it is in addition to obviously being a warming or cooling station for residents in time of need when the power is out, we are already set up as a public building to serve the public. So we have got connectivity here, we've got Wi-Fi, we have 12 public computers that are available, and when there's a power outage, that's what people need. They need to connect. So we're already set up for that, and I think with a generator in place, we would be able to serve the community right through any power outage. The next item is architect fees for feasibility of center school use as a library. Last year, Center School Use, the Center School Use Ad Hoc Committee that was initiated by the Board of Selectmen was initiated to determine the highest and best use for Center School once it is vacated, which is in the fall of 2022. That's only 18 months away. And that committee, the Ad Hoc Committee, sent surveys out to about 140 groups in Brookfield, everything from churches to scouts to sports to town departments, asking for their space needs. And of the groups that responded, their space needs were weighted depending on how many residents, Brookfield residents, were served by that service. And lots of thoughtful Brookfield residents came to the following conclusion. This is the executive summary from their final report that was submitted to the Board of Selectmen a few months ago. And the conclusion from their work was that the top recommendation for how to reuse Center School is to house a new library. We had some members, there were some members on that committee that had some engineering expertise and some real estate expertise. So some general estimates and judgments could be made, but there were no funds attached to that committee or allocated to that committee to get accurate building estimates or to determine various scenarios for how to convert Center School. And it's a really important step for understanding what the options are. And it's a step that we can take now. It's the way to move forward to figure out, it's the same exact process that the school used, was to have Tecton, I believe it was Tecton, that went into the school and came up with some scenarios, and then one was selected as the way to go forward. So that is the request for the $30,000 in the capital, is to determine what it would cost to convert Center School as a library or anything else. And then the last request on capital is for a phone system. And the reason for that is that simply we don't have enough phone lines. We have, and the equipment that we have is very outdated. We have one main phone line for the library and 2 rollovers, so a total of 3. And one of them doubles as actually the town info line. And we often have to wait for an open line to make an outgoing call, which is a waste of time. But also because we're off-site, every time I need to call the finance department or the first selectman's office, I have to call on an outside line. And conferencing is also really archaic and ties up 2 of our 3 lines. So I end up using my personal cell phone for all conference calls while I'm at work, because our system can't manage it. So we definitely need a new phone system. This is our 10-year capital plan. And while of course we hope that we can fund a new library sooner than 2028, that is what's currently on the plan. Any questions?
Yvonne, I do have, has the library board thought about or considered raising the money for the plans for a new library, privately?
We have some of the library board members here, so would it be okay if they answered that question?
Yes.
Certainly.
Sorry, Betsy McIlvaine. I'm chairman of the library board. The library board, because it's a municipal outfit, cannot go out and fundraise. There is and several years ago, we established the Brookfield Library Foundation, whose core purpose was to help raise funds for a new library building. It's been relatively not active recently, but we've just, in this past year, reorganized the foundation with a lot of new people who are really enthusiastic about fundraising, and they are starting to work on fundraising now with a paint party on Thursday. If you're interested, Harry, we'll sign you up. But no, our first intent is, yes, eventually we will, the Brookfield Library Foundation will determine what their goal is of raising money to build a new library. And at that point, we can look at that amount of money, but for small things like this, it seems more appropriate that this is a building analysis and that it be done at the same way most buildings are, which is funding by the town to see, in this case, what parts of Center School would be what it would cost to bring it back up to code from where it is.
Thank you, Betsy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think it would be, I can understand the board not being able to get involved, but if there is going to, if the ad hoc committee starts up and running, and I think it would be a great, I know that there are a lot of people in town who don't think we need a library. I am not one of those people. I sympathize with you, and I know we do need one. And I think to raise $30,000, I think it can be done fairly easily. And I would love to see them at least consider a fundraising. You can do it in many different ways, but I just think it would be a great idea to take that burden off of the town right now. And I think it'd be a great jumpstart to getting more people behind the new library.
Yeah, the only problem with that though is now you're asking the library to do a study on a building that the library might not even go into.
yeah. And the
Well,
second,
I would assume that if that's where the town is putting the library, I see what you're saying. I would assume that if the town is, I would not think that they would do that, Sue, unless that is where the library was going to go.
But, and it was also, talked about that it was going to be shared space with Park and Rec.
Right.
So now you're having the library do it, and yet
Yeah.
we're having other.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Can I ask a question on the slide before? I'm sorry, Steve, but
No, go
on our capital pages here, it's library window replacement for 425. Now you're showing front doors, sensors, and windows for the 425. I just want to make sure that the 425 is.
Window and door replacement is what's included in that RFP. I think they just sort of shortened it to windows.
Window replacement. Okay,
Yeah.
so just knowing that with the 425, we can get more than just the windows replaced.
Well, the 425 was the cost that was estimated. Now it would be
A year ago.
almost 2 years ago, because of course we got that estimate before the last budget season. So yeah, that's what it was at that point, and it did include the doors as well.
Okay, yeah, because I was looking for it on the capital on our sheet, but it wasn't spelled out that way. So okay,
Yeah,
thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
I just
Anything
have-
else?
Yeah, I just have two comments. One, Harry, I understand your concern and your ask of the board and the foundation, but the way I guess we have a philosophical difference here. We don't ask Parks and Rec to raise money to design a new garage by the school. We just pay for it. And the library is part of the town. It's a town building, it's a town service, and I think the town should support it as the same. I think it's great that the foundation is going to raise money for a new library. I think that'll go a long way towards convincing people to support a new library. But I really feel that this is a town expense that should be there. So
I don't completely disagree with you, Steve. I see your point.
yeah. The second thing is on the phones. In my budget, I had taken out the phones. And the reason I did is the school's phones, the existing phones, are coming up. Their contract is over, I believe, next spring. The town's is coming up. That's going, I think, next summer. And we're building a new school that's going to require all new phones. It's going to be a whole new system. So I want to leverage off of that, and whichever provider we're using for the new school, and we decide, have them give us the cost of doing town hall, the high school, Wisconsin, do the whole thing. So we're all on one phone system. It works for everybody. And that's why I took it out of your budget.
And going to the police as well? Is that?
Yes, everybody. Yes.
Right. So security.
Yeah, 'cause believe it or not, we just in town hall got, you can pick up the phone and dial 911. You wouldn't get 911 in town hall. It's crazy. We just had to add that to our phones. So we do need to look at that. The phone systems are antiquated, but I think we could leverage off what we're doing for the new school and possibly get a better price, volume discount.
On our capital here too, we show security camera installation. I'm not seeing it on yours, Yvonne.
Yeah, I took that out too, because we have the Avignon system, which the police and the town schools use. And we want to go with a sole supplier. So this will all be connected to the police department and they will have one system. They look at all the cameras across town. We don't think, and I've talked to Chief Purcell about this, we don't want our dispatchers having to pull up 3 different systems to look at the cameras. And we already have Avignon at the police department and at the high school. So I'd like to, again, leverage that and use the same system across the board. Does that make sense?
So actually, so is there a new report for Harry and I then?
Yeah, we're going to be updating it a little bit. I don't know, the cameras are in there. Let me check. Cameras are in there.
And I think Marcia, I don't know, Marcia, if you want to jump in, but I think Marcia was making that adjustment today, right, on the
Okay.
cameras?
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, we showed it going into a 10-year plan.
Yeah, we have
Approving it for 10 years.
125,000. We have 125,000 in public works. We had 18,000 in the schools. So we'll have to look at that and make sure that it has that number is right. We'll look
The
at that.
reason that's out of there is the cameras were approved last year.
Oh, so their cameras were approved. So we'll just
Their
roll.
cameras were approved and they just
Library?
accidentally put it in again this year.
Library. Oh, okay. Because it wasn't green lined. That's
Okay.
something that was approved, amounts that were approved by the Board of Finance.
The green line ones are just the ones that are bonded. So those are the ones that were approved but didn't ultimately go to bonding. So the green line ones are things, probably a base that you may start with, but these were approved as a cash payment.
So we already have,
And so that they can buy those at any time they want.
right.
Okay.
But what I'd like to do is do one project if we possibly can.
Yeah, we're talking to Sheldon about that, and he's going to make sure that he's working with Julie.
You're part
and-
of it, right,
Yeah.
right. In this case, a sole supplier is, and we've looked at it, is a better way to go across the board.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yvonne, I don't have a question, but I would like just to say to you and Betsy and Christina that I know I have questions about the library, but I want you to know that I am in full support of the right new library. And I would be more than happy when there is a fundraising, whether it's to raise money to build it or for monies to get ready to build it. I am more than happy and willing to help out with that. So
Oh,
Thank
get 'em
you,
ready.
Thank
Harry.
you, Harry.
We got you.
I've been involved
It's
with a
on
lot.
tape.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. You're recorded, Harry. That's great.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
I love fundraising. I've been in tons of fundraising with athletic programs. And I'd be more than happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
very
And
kind. Thank you.
And please, Harry, I mean, questions are of interest, and at anytime you have a question, please call Yvonne or I or Christina, or ask at any place you see us. Because that's having people interested in the library, and the new library is what we're looking for. And so we appreciate all questions that come in.
You're welcome. I will.
Yeah, can I make one more comment? I know I've been
Yes.
talking a lot. In that, in my budget, I approved the money for the new design. And
Mhm.
here's my thinking, the police, we have complete designs for a new police station. We have the new school design. We're now getting the full design. We have the money for radios for police and the fire department, but we don't have a full design for a library. And in order to fundraise, in order to do anything, you've got to have something to show people.
Yes.
And I think it's only fair. And we also, believe it or not, I really want to know what the costs would be. Because, no, because that comes into the 10-year capital plan that we're thinking about. We just can't make a guess. Well, I think it's
Just how hard is Harry going to have to work? That's what I want to know.
right. Harry's got another few years of trudging it out every day.
All I can tell you is when I was with the Little League, we had a base-a-thon where you run the bases, and it poured that the Saturday all day. And we ended up raising, I made some phone calls, and we ended up raising $11,000 for the baseball. So you can do it.
You're hired.
Are there, Steve, is there a real possibility that Park and Rec will be in that building as well?
Harry, I don't have any idea. The committee came back with, they thought that the best and highest use for the building and the facility was library first, Parks and Rec second, because Parks and Rec could use space.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea. We'll have to hire an architect to say, okay, here are the needs of the library. Here's the space we have. Does it make sense to mix the two? Maybe not, maybe yeah. I just don't know.
That was
we need this study.
Yeah, if we're gonna do a study, do it, incorporate whoever may end up going in there. It looks like if with two facilities up there. So
yeah, good point.
Now,
right, thank you.
Now the description here is architect fees for new library. We're not going to see a design of a new library. We're just going to see if it's feasible to use center as is. Is that the?
Yeah. I was going to say, so we need to be a little careful about what $30,000 will buy us.
Right.
It will, in our view, it will buy us a reanalysis based on what Tecton did originally, and go back and look and say, is this true? What would it take to bring this building up to code so it could be reused? Is it worthwhile? And could we, in theory, put a library and or Parks and Rec in there? So this is the first. Next fiscal year, you will get another request for an architect to start designing a new library. And hopefully by that time we and the town will have decided exactly where, and we'll know from the first study whether it's worthwhile putting into center school or perhaps tearing it down and replacing it. So major architectural studies and saying this is what a new library might look like at that piece of property is another year out.
And helpful that we have the base information from Tecton now. So hopefully that'll help them and not.
We gotta remember that the Tecton report, if I remember correctly, showed that center school needed $18 million worth of work over the next 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, yes, when we said we could build a library for under 15.
Yeah. So I would be leaning towards it's probably more cost effective to just build a new library.
Yeah.
Yep.
Based on the cost of bringing center back. But we have to go through it, but we need the information.
But we'll have the land.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, right. We need the information first off before we make those kinds of decisions.
Right. Yep, I agree. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, issues, concerns?
I don't know how many more slides there are, but just looking at the statistics.
Oh, sorry, you have more slides, Yvonne?
No, just statistics up there. We have even in the this is the last year that we were open a full year. These are those statistics, but even during the COVID year, we still had over 100,000 items borrowed
Yeah.
at the library in 1 year.
I know
And-
going there, and I'm sorry, but just, tables set up outside with the brown bags of books for people to swing by and pick up. I mean, you guys have not missed a step. You have,
Thank
you are sending those books out and really doing a real service to our town. So thank you.
Thank
That's
you
where I
very
was going
much.
with where we were with the last slide, but yeah.
Well, you're not the only one that has said thank you, because
Oh.
this is just a little sampling of some of the thank you notes that we have received just in the last couple of months. I think that it's been very clear, apart from the things that people have emailed to us, and these people actually took the time to handwrite us notes and send us cards of thanks just in the last 2 or 3 months. So I know that people are appreciative of the service that we provide, and we're happy to continue providing it. And that is the end of our presentation. Any other questions?
Not for me. Harry?
I am fine, thank you.
Great. Well, guys, thank you very much. This was very informative. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we got you out on time, right?
Yeah, a little early.
Yeah. So head to the high school, everybody.
If you're voting yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're gonna get in trouble for that, Steve.
Yeah, I
Yes,
was
I
getting in
will.
trouble. That was a joke, just
Steve,
for the record.
Steve,
Don't turn it.
I think we're only going to need 7 yes votes to get the majority. So.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. We've not had any trouble before with the streetscapes. I'm hoping that's the same.
No, this is a design going back many, many years.
Okay.
And it
It's
looks
coming to
terrific.
fruition now.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good to see you. Wish it was in person.
7 o'clock, right? Sue?
7
Yes.
o'clock at the auditorium.
What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Good.
Out.
I think you have to adjourn the meeting.
Oh. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? I'll
I will
entertain.
make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Steve, will you
I'll
second?
it. And Harry's already gone.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I forgot about that. Thank